My son died without warning, and he left me his entire estate. I didn't tell his wife. I believed silence would keep the peace. Instead, it revealed the truth. The morning I lost my son, the world didn't stop the way I thought it would. The sun still rose. Birds still sang. Cars still passed by my window. That was the cruelest part, realizing that while my life had ended, the rest of the world didn't seem to notice. The phone rang just after dawn. I answered it without thinking, still half asleep, still believing my biggest worries were my aching knees and sleepless nights. A calm voice introduced himself, then paused, as if searching for the right words. There was an accident. A truck. A red light. My son was taken to the hospital, but they couldn't save him. I thanked the man on the phone. I don't know why. Then I sat down and waited for the pain to come. It didn't come immediately. First came disbelief. I kept expecting another call telling me there had been a mistake, that they had mixed up names, that my son was fine and laughing somewhere, annoyed that people were making such a fuss. But the second call never came. My son was gone. I had already buried my wife years ago. She had been my strength, my balance. When she died, my son stepped into that empty space without even realizing it. He called me every day. He visited every weekend. He worried about me the way parents worry about children. People say time prepares you for loss. They lie. Nothing prepares a parent to bury their child. The days after his death were heavy and unreal. The funeral passed like a dream I couldn't wake up from. People hugged me, cried with me, spoke about how kind my son was, how successful, how loving. I nodded and thanked them, but inside I felt hollow. Words meant nothing when the person they described was lying in a coffin. His wife was there too. She cried loudly, clinging to people, collapsing into arms dramatically. I stood beside her, believing we were united by the same pain. At that moment I saw her as my family, the last piece of my son still alive in this world. After the funeral, the house felt unbearably quiet. My son's childhood photos stared at me from the walls. His laughter echoed in every corner. I slept in the living room because his room was too painful to walk past. A week later, the lawyer called. I almost didn't go. Paperwork felt meaningless compared to the emptiness I carried. But something told me I should, so I dressed slowly, carefully, like an old man learning how to exist again, and went to the office. The lawyer offered condolences. Then he opened a folder and read the will. At first, I thought I had misunderstood. When he said my son had left me his entire estate, I laughed. A short, broken laugh that surprised even me. I told him there must be a mistake. My son was married. He had a life, a future planned with his wife. The lawyer shook his head gently. The will was clear. My son had updated it 6 months earlier. Everything he owned, the house, the business, the land, the savings, all of it was legally mine. I asked why. The lawyer hesitated, then said something that still echoes in my mind. He said you would never ask him for anything, and he wanted to make sure you were never left alone. I walked out of that office feeling heavier than when I had walked in. The inheritance didn't feel like a blessing. It felt like a responsibility, a secret, a test I didn't know I had agreed to take. I didn't tell his wife. I told myself I was protecting her. She was grieving. The truth could wait. But deep inside, something felt off. A quiet instinct whispered that I should observe before I spoke. And that instinct saved me. Within days, small changes appeared. She began asking questions, not about my health, not about how I was coping, but about documents, bank accounts, property papers. She spoke confidently about decisions that hadn't been made yet. She started calling the house hers. One evening, while we sat together, she casually said she was thinking of remodeling the living room and selling one of the plots of land. She spoke as if everything was already settled. Then she looked at me and smiled. "You don't need to worry about these things anymore," she said. "I'll handle it all." I felt a chill run through me. Soon after, her kindness faded. Meals were forgotten. Conversations became short and impatient. She stopped asking me to join her for tea. She spoke to me like an obligation, not family. One night I overheard her on the phone. She was laughing, talking about selling assets, about starting fresh, about finally living the life she deserved. She never mentioned my son. That was the moment I understood my son's decision. Still, I stayed silent. I wanted to be sure. The truth revealed itself sooner than I expected. The lawyer called her in for a meeting. I wasn't there, but when she returned home, the air changed. Her face was pale, her eyes sharp with anger. She didn't ask questions. She accused. She said I had manipulated my son, that I had poisoned his mind against her. She called me selfish for accepting what was legally mine. I listened quietly. Not once did she speak of love. Not once did she ask why her husband made that choice. All she saw was loss, not of a person, but of property. That night, she packed her bags. She told me this wasn't over, that she would fight, that she deserved everything. But as she walked out the door, I felt something unexpected. Peace. Because the house was quiet again. But this time it wasn't empty. In the weeks that followed, I spent a lot of time alone, thinking, remembering, grieving properly for the first time, without pretending, without fear. I realized my son hadn't left me everything out of anger or mistrust. He left me everything out of love. He knew I would never misuse it. He knew I would honor his memory. And most importantly, he knew who would stand by me when he was gone. Money cannot replace a child. An estate cannot fill the silence of a lost voice. But sometimes, what is left behind carries a final message. My son's message was clear. He protected me even after death. And that, more than anything he owned, is what I will cherish for the rest of my life.